All right. We haven't talked about Tomb Mold in a while, so I'm pretty stoked on this. It's been...
Yeah, man.
Didn't talk about the demo that came out or anything like that, at least interview form. So, I don't know. I mean, this is going to be... I don't know. When are we going to put this out? When is this interview going to come out?
Anytime after the 15th is fine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So people will have heard it a little bit then. So there's some context there.
They'll have a solid day with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's enough time. That's all they need.
So, all right. Before just jumping straight into the album then, being that it's been a while, no one's really heard from Tomb Mold, not much at least. What's been going on? I mean, you guys did the 3 albums year after year after year, that 3-album run, which is pretty incredible. I mean, it seems pretty obvious, and I know we talked about it before, but it was like time for a little bit of a break, a little breather room there. But what was it? It was 4 years since anything was put out, I think?
Yep.
Yeah.
What was the reasons for that?
Well, I guess Aperture was released like a year ago, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it was in the summer. It was in the summer last year.
So it was like 3 years of nothing.
Okay. So it's not that much. That's pretty normal.
No, it's not. I mean, for us, it was a lot.
Right.
For sure.
Right. What was the reason? I mean, obviously there was some other stuff going on. You guys did some other projects, but just kind of what was going on during that time? We had pandemic, but...
I think we had a productive 2019. The last string of shows that we did was between like August and September. We did I guess it was July to September. We had done like an America tour and then like a small West Coast tour and then did a European tour. And I think we were all just burnt out. I don't think we expected to do anything like that pretty much ever. So by the time like the end of September rolled around, we were like, this is not, I don't know. I'm not sure what we should do. This sounds a lot.
Yeah, in January 2019, when like we were still talking about like Planetary coming out, it's like, yeah, it's gonna come out. We're gonna tour. We're gonna go out for like 2 whole weeks. It's fucking awesome. And then all these things just kept popping up, and like we all have jobs and shit. So in like December, I still remember it after the last gig we played, the Hospital Fest in New York City. Max and I and his partner drove back to Toronto, and we went to IHOP. And man, It wasn't that I didn't enjoy the stuff we did, but I was so relieved that the year was over, and I was like, nobody died, none of us like lost any limbs. Just like, but like I sound like I'm joking, but I'm kind of almost not. Where it's like we took on so much that we hadn't expected for like a full-time band that might not be as crazy. But, you got in the meat grinder a bit. So when we got to the end of the year and it's like, we did all this cool stuff. We avoided tragedy, it was cool. But it was definitely like, it was a big relief to get to the end of the year. As a Canadian, we don't want to tour in like the winter here or anywhere where it snows. Because like I don't want to get in a vehicle accident or whatever. Those are really... those happen a lot in the winter. So it was like, oh, cool, we're going to chill for a bit. And then, then the pandemic happened. So
it was like perfect timing.
Yeah, I guess so,
it's
actually.
like plan nothing, and then the world shuts down. You have no commitments. And like, 2021, we're like, remember this thing you agreed to a year ago? It's time to do it. Like, no.
We did, the only thing we had planned was Migration Fest, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
That was promptly canceled.
Is it like a never happening now?
It's probably happening like next weekend. Like we should probably get ready. We didn't even check and look into it. I think we all did, like as an aside though, and it's been like beaten to death talking about COVID, but like we had such a busy 2019 where everything fell into place, and lots of really cool shows that were great, and getting up early and traveling and lots of moving parts or whatever. So like we had nothing planned for 2020. But we definitely felt for all the bands that had like a ton of plans that just evaporated, or bands that were on tour and they had to cancel their tour halfway through. Like if that had happened to us in 2019, like we would have been heartbroken, Like we got lucky in that way. The timing was good for us, but that really sucked for like so many bands that put so much work into music and then subsequently touring.
I even remember because like we weren't doing anything, but at that point I was playing bass for Outer Heaven, and we were supposed to go on a tour with one other band, and then I think Demolich was like the headlining band.
Oh, yeah.
And that was going to be like in May or something, like around MDF. And then I remember like, you know, everything happens and then it's like, oh, well, we'll see next week if we have to cancel. Oh, we'll see if next week. It's like, dude, just like call it.
give up.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So then what made you guys figure it was time to put that demo out?
Well, go ahead, Max.
I think once we had like that year off, I think we were all really like rearing to go by the time we like were comfortable jamming again. And we had such like a wealth of material to work with that it was kind of like a no-brainer. We thought, oh, we could just drop like a fucking LP or, you know, or something out of the blue. But we've always done tape, LP, tape, LP, tape, LP. It's like, it's a tried and tested, like true and honest way to do this. It's always the best. And I'm like, why don't we just do it the same way? And I think we were kind of hesitant, but we like, we're like, why not? There's really nothing holding us back except for mail order.
Yeah,
It's not fun.
that
we managed to power
man.
through it. Yeah.
That sucked.
That's like that fucking
yeah.
what's that DJ Khaled meme where it's like suffering from success, but they're just like, yo, we sold too many fucking single order tapes. Get ready for your weekends to be ruined for like weeks.
Yeah. And then we're getting emails that are like, hi, this is, you know, blank in Hungary. I ordered the tape. The tape has been sent back. Please repost it when you receive it. It's like, dude, it's destroyed.
Please send like 4 tapes enclosed to Lithuanian fishing village.
Yeah.
Please include tracking.
Yeah.
You know.
Sorry, that'll be $140. Yeah, I guess our pattern has been DIY, DDI. Do it yourself. Dave does it.
That's it.
So tape, LP. But it is nice for us to stay in the DIY. I think Max records the tapes. They've increasingly gotten better with quality. The recording quality. The recording quality on Aperture is amazing. No, and that's no slight on Cerulean or even the very first 2 tapes, like Cryptic and then the demo and the Molting. But it's nice to still have like a, you know, hey, you know, Max, like I ordered a bunch of tapes. Let's sit around and put them together. Like it's fun, you know, and we all sort of came from that, so it's cool. And just, you know, go send it directly to people. And the nice thing with this one is the thing that I'm really stoked on is that every other tape was 2 songs from the LP and then the LP. So you had heard 29% of the record from the tape, like different versions, mind you, but still. Whereas this was like, you know, people will probably expect at least one of those songs, if not both of the, you know, the guitar, drums, bass songs on the LP. And when they're not there, it's like, cool, here's 42 minutes of brand new music. Like that's really exciting.
I was really surprised by that. I actually went back today because I was like, I thought that. I was like, wait, those songs weren't on the LP. Then I was like, well, I don't want to sound like an idiot during this interview. I better make sure that they weren't like changed the name or something like that. But I was like, no, these are all fresh songs. So that I agree. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, you're in luck too, because I think when the LP comes out, I'm not sure whether or not it'll happen like soon thereafter or like at the same time, but 20 Bucksman is repressing the demo as like a single-sided 12-inch to come out basically alongside the LP. So it'll be not only 1 Tumult record, but 2 Tumult records in like the span of a week. So people can't complain when they have to wait 6 years for the next one.
Well, it was funny because you mentioned Payson, like this one has like no songs from the LP on the tape. I remember after we put out that tape, we were at some show and a kid came out to me and he's like, I love the new Tumult tape. I was like, oh, thanks. He's like, are you going to make an LP? And I just said, yes. He's like, and he's like, are either of the songs from the tape going to be on it? And I just looked him in the eye and was like, no. And he was pumped. And then I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's great.
I keep telling people we're re-recording Primordial. You have an LP? I'm like, yeah, we're re-recording the first record and just making it, you know, it just sounds it's a little faster. It's like 5% faster.
I think it was also like the new tape just kind of helps like softball, like the like trio formation recording and like how the songs sound and stuff, because it's like it's a bit of a departure. Not to mention like the two songs, like I love those two songs on the Aperture tape, but they don't fit on the record. Like you can't have Prestige of Rebirth and the closing track on the new LP because they're both closing tracks. Like, you know what I mean? So that was good. We like found a home for both, and that's nice.
I think we kind of thought of them too as being played in succession as well. So when we had it sequenced with like a relatively short intro and then just like really extremely like condensed track, open up the tape, and then basically just expand on an opener. So it's just really gone in a flash. That's what I kind of think of our tapes as being. What my favorite part of them at least is they're never more than like 50 minutes. It's like really a piece of promo material rather than like a demo, I guess. Like it's executed in that way. Like I think in the grand scheme of things, like I looked at those songs as being like, if we were to have played live at that point, those would have been like the first 2 or 3 songs that we would play at a set, like intro, like right out the gate banger, and then into something kind of like mellow with an ending like that, and then kind of carry on to the rest. In theory, that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so. I think the stepping stone element of the tape to the new record is that even though the tape and the new record are pretty different from each other, the thing they have in common is that the swampier parts from Manor and Planetary are kind of gone. So, and we've tuned up, which gives you a certain degree of like more clarity when it comes to the notes. So in turn, we can play the songs really fast, and it's not just a bunch of mud. Some of the faster parts on Manor or Planetary are a bit muddier because it's so heavy. Now with us tuned up a bit higher, it's more of like there's more clarity to it. But those chuggier parts on the last 2 records aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
Or if they are, they're there. They're just clean now. Now they're just the tempo's
clean,
there, but
clean swamp.
Clean. Yeah.
Clean chug.
We're gonna clean the swamp.
Yeah, we're gonna clean the swamp.
Drain the swamp. Oh my god.
Next T-shirt for sure. That's a good point about the clarity. I didn't know you guys tuned up, so that makes a lot of sense because I remember listening to the demo and just being like blown away at the technicality and being able to hear it so well. And that makes a lot of sense. If you were tuned down, maybe you would have lost a little bit of that. But
yeah, the strings typically get a bit looser, and when you hit them, they can kind of bounce around a bit more. So Derek and I played so much guitar since the pandemic started, so it was fun to like push ourselves for sure. Like there's, I still remember learning parts of the LP and being like, oh man, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do this, and then recording it, being like, damn, that was easy. But there's always another part that's hard, so you just have to practice. You get out what you put in for sure.
Yeah, I think we both showed up like when we recorded the record. I think you like looked at me and were like, "I can't play this riff," and I was like, "Oh, I can't play this one." It's like it's fine.
Yeah, we got there.
We'll cover for each other.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I mean, with that time off, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about the rest of you guys. I mean, I know talking to Derek, like, picked up bass, learned that. You were getting more into the acoustic type stuff, so learned a lot with that kind of stuff. Payson, I'm sure you probably were playing a lot more. Like, I mean, you kind of answered the question there, but just touching on the new album quickly, it's fucking wild, and it's a lot different than before, technically speaking, playing wise. There's so much more to it. How much did that play into it? Like, if you would have tried to write this album in 2020, like, how much different would it have sounded to what you're putting out?
It'd be like 15% slower.
Yeah,
and the transitions wouldn't be super tight. But I think that's another thing too. Is like on Manor and Planetary, it's like part, 4 times. So a lot of the times it's like end on the 6th fret. The next phrase starts the 1st fret of the A string. Boom, we're there to start over. And on this record, there was a lot more effort on my part to be like, I want to get from point A to point B really clean, so it feels really cohesive. So a lot of the times the parts aren't necessarily hard, but getting somewhere in the right, getting to the right spot to make sure things are like watertight was the harder part. And but it worked. Like, I mean, I think it sounds not that I have problems with the other songs, but you play them and you just sort of I don't know. I like it to feel like one big unit instead of like a bunch of parts, you know? Especially when you're relearning a song and you're like, how does this go? And then it's just like, all right, I know all 11
Still
parts.
don't know how to play the songs. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll just look at Kevin. What's Kevin doing? Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, it had a ton to do with it for sure. Because then we wanted to push ourselves. We wanted to play parts that were too hard. And sometimes Derek would show me a part, and then I would figure it out. He'd be playing it in a way that I find weird, and then I would find a different spot on the fretboard. And he'd be like, "That's weird."
Yeah.
But it's what worked for both of us. But I'm going to move that up 5 frets and start on a different string, same notes. But yeah, we just played to our strengths or whatever, and I think that gives the records or the guitars their own voices, kind of too.
Right.
Yeah, I think the personality of everybody's playing really comes through on this record, and maybe that's because just the benefit of getting to spend more time just playing the songs with each other and whatnot. You know what I mean? And they just they just feel so much more dialed than everything else. Even though everything else sounds great, this just feels way more, I don't know, something.
Sure. And with the increased tech, you can't be like, you can't just show up and just do it. It's like I practice those songs every day. I had a guitar at work to do it. The album's like 42 minutes and my lunch break's 45 minutes, and I just played it. And, you know, it really paid off, because when it came time to actually playing it, it was like, all right, sick. This sounds super tight. Yeah. No issues. First time we recorded a record off the floor together, as opposed to just track by track.
And that was fun. That was fun. I think that helps too.
Yeah, it was cool. It was definitely different. It's cool to like watch Max playing, and I can like literally watch the
stabs,
you know, the stick hit the hi-hat or the snare drum, and you can feel full. It's totally different. You feel fully locked in. Especially
so before
when
you guys were doing each part separate.
Yeah. Well,
and
actually,
then this time you were all there.
Me and Max would track off the floor together.
Okay.
And kind of like lay the foundation, and then we would do next guitars, and then bass, and then leads, vocals, and stuff.
Okay.
But this time we were sort of like, well, we could all just do it together. So we did.
Yeah.
Is that any harder doing it like that?
Yeah.
Like if someone fucks up, you just get
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there's ways to fix little mistakes, but yeah, it's totally tough.
It's really hard for. Oh, sorry. Keep going, Payson.
I was just gonna say it's hard to. I find it hard to play accurately when I can't hear myself. Like, so I'm at even when you have your headphones mixed or whatever, it's like, because if I'm just playing and I can't hear it, I'm like, am I just fucking up? Are these all the wrong notes? Like, I need to hear it. So yeah, it was tough. Like a lot of focus is required for sure, but you get a different result, and there's, you know, it's very elastic. So yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Max. Sorry.
No, I had sort of a similar sentiment where we've been playing these songs like to death in our rehearsal space, which is such a claustrophobic spot, and you really don't hear the nuance, at least of your guys' guitar playing. Like you can hear me more clearly, but that's just because, you know, it's an acoustic instrument. You're sitting right there in front of me. But once we're in the space and I have you in my left ear, Derek in my right ear, it's like night and day. It feels like I'm playing different songs completely. It sounds better, but it's like a little bit of a like
jarring.
It's kind of scary, because I'm like, oh, now I can hear everything clearly. There were parts where I was kind of like overcompensating with, you know, my speed or maybe with intensity, and then I find that I really lack that power at the end of the song. Where like when we're doing things off the floor, it's relatively easy to punch in guitar, and you can do it with drums, but you really are trying to capture like a full take. Like I think of, you know, all the Defeated Sanity records are like one take off the floor. And I'm like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's fucking crazy. It's awesome, because then when you see it live, it's the exact same, except he's a little bit more loose with some fills and some little nuanced parts. But it's tough. But I think after having done that, now when we play the songs, I'm a lot more confident. And I think it also kind of trained me to like sort of ration my energy for like more important parts of the song, and also figure out places where I can rest vocals and have intense vocals, that kind of thing. Where, because every time we've basically done every record, the vocals are never, ever, ever, ever considered until we are there on the day that I need to record vocals. And I have a big sheet of paper and I'm like, How is this whole album gonna go?
Every time I tell anyone that, they're like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, Max practices with vocals, right? Gets in place." I'm like, "No, he waits till the song's done. He's got a bunch of paragraphs on a piece of paper, and he's just there like metering it out with a pencil." It's like, oh
wow.
Wild.
The upside of us doing the tapes too is that the 2 songs would be recorded for the LP, so at least I had 2 songs that I knew for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And we had played live, so I knew what I was going to do for them. But this one was like totally. I was a little bit more prepared for this one. I had arranged things a little bit better, and I had written the lyrics with each song in mind. But normally it's just like I write everything in one long fucking paragraph, fucking Scram style, just like periods and lots of punctuation that doesn't make any fucking sense. And then I just cross my fingers and hope that I wrote enough for the song, because then I'm going to start repeating stuff.
Yeah, when we were parsing it out there, I was like, okay, there's 70 seconds left in the song. He's got 14 words. I think this one's going to be good.
That is wild. That's wild. It works, I guess.
I don't plan on stopping doing that ever.
Why? Yeah. Why stop? Yeah.
If it ain't broke.
Yeah.
What is the point? It's fun, but also like I think because we had a little bit more time to sit on this record and it's a lot more dynamic, when we did get to the stage where vocals needed to be done, I think we were all a little bit more invested in cadence and where they landed, so they didn't obstruct solos, rests and stuff like that. There was a lot more room to play around with them versus, our previous like more cavernous offerings were kind of just like very metered, monosyllabic, kind of just like grunts. Not that that's bad, but it wasn't anything crazy. I didn't think my vocals were ever that good. I don't think they're that great in the first place, but I think they're better now.
Oh, stop.
Is there a band yet called Cavernous Offerings?
I've got my notebook. It's in there.
Max, make that Bandcamp
it's
right
done.
now.
Yeah. It's done. It's done. I have the Gmail. It's done.
That's where all our swampy parts can go that we can. You're a swampy part band. Cavernous Offerings.
That's our P.O. box name. Tim Old's Cavernous Offerings.
We're gonna have a 3.5 minute demo and 11 shirt designs available at the end of the month.
A shirt for every riff.
Yeah.
No, the vocals on this one are so good, but you and Payson were really good at like workshopping all the like phrasing and stuff, like because like that stuff is so like over my head. I
don't think I ever really understood it until this time. Like I don't think I got it. There were a couple times when the other records where I was like, damn, that was a good idea. But most of them I was like, yeah, that's where vocals go. Sure. Okay, I think that's what I don't know. I'm so unsure of it. But I think this one was really fun to mess around with, just because I knew that I really enjoyed several parts of this record in terms of like the drum parts that I managed to kind of come up with. So I was really stoked to kind of place my vocals around them so they were a little bit more challenging, something to really kind of freshen it up. And now finally playing them with the band doing vocals, I'm like, fuck, this is awesome. I wouldn't have done it any other way. So that's cool.
Yeah, I love the simple math part of it. When we'd listen to the riff and be like, okay, there's 16 spaces and you got this many syllables, and that was really fun. And then I just kept thinking about Bury Your Dead and Hatebreed.
There you go, exactly. Yeah, so many words.
That's intelligent music.
It is.
How was it? This album's got a lot more soft, pretty parts, changes for you guys. How was it like throwing vocals over that? Because I mean, that's not something you guys were doing in the past.
It was
cool.
It was cool. Like, it was mostly
very
just
cool.
Awesome. We kind of we softballed it on Prestige of Rebirth when I was like, once we had that open part, I'm like, I cannot fucking believe we finally get to do this, because we had been talking about this for a while. We all love that kind of very classic, like clean part, brutal vocals, and every sort of like, it's a really classic death metal like trope. That's kind of a negative word for it, but it really is like classic, And I don't know. I think it was relatively easy. I think we knew that we wanted to do that, and we were just kind of stoked. I don't know how to really.
Well,
it didn't feel like anything weird.
It was
go ahead.
cool. It was cool, but we softballed it before then. We did when we recorded "Beg for Life."
Oh yeah,
the first track on Planetary. When we went into doing the vocals there were no vocals over Derek, the classical guitar, and the drums. And then it was just on a whim. We were like, "Hey, put some vocals here." And then like syllable 1, we were like, "Holy fuck! Like, this is amazing." So we knew it would work, and it works great on Prestige. And Prestige is very like you can tell it's the end of a song. It's not building to anything. It's kind of like a really soft, extinguishing sort of moment that just kind of drags on. So the vocals over that are very like distant and kind of like feels a bit like a eulogy or something. But on here, it was more fun to be like, okay, we got these. It's chorused out guitar, tons of reverb. Like we're not tiptoeing around it anymore. This is straight up clean, up tempo, whatever. And yeah, it sounds fucking awesome. We all knew it would sound awesome though, for sure. You can't just have the clean parts and then just nothing over it.
Yeah.
And people get sick of me and Derek just ripping solos all the time. So
No. It's funny because when we went to record, I hadn't listened to Aperture in so long that I even forgot we had vocals on the clean part there. So when we were recording vocals, and I didn't even think I knew if you were going to do them or not. But then like over the part in the third song, it was like fucking so sick. It was just like a good moment. Yeah, it was great.
That's easily my favorite moment on the record, for sure.
That's everybody's favorite song, apparently.
Yeah, I think it is.
That's funny.
When we first like played it, the three of us, I was like, this is. If we just released a single and called it a record, I'd be like, you got it. Dave, I hope you put it as a flexi. That's our new record.
Flexi.
That's it. It's a fucking lathe. That's it. It's a mono. Just that's it. This is as good as it fucking gets. So eat it up.
Oh,
Yeah, well, that song is so sick. And when I first listened to this album, it was all just the one track, so I didn't really know when things were starting or ending, which was cool actually. But when I got to this song, because it starts with that like mellow and the bass and all that, it's just like I had a huge grin because it was just like, so different, so cool. And then like those parts where like the heavy vocals over the clean parts. It's such a dynamic song. That definitely has been mostly my favorite track too. I go back and forth. There's that one. What's that? Will of Whispers. Yeah. Then the next one, Fate's Tangled Thread.
Yeah.
That one kind of gets me every time. Those are like a 1-2. Yeah.
The last sequence of that tune is awesome. I think we thought of that one as being not weak, but I think we were really stoked on, song 2, song 5, like they were really, really intense. And 4, I think we were just like so concerned with Will of Whispers and like stuff like Flesh's Armor that we kind of forgot about 4. And then when we finally did it, 4 was like the dark horse where I'm like, fuck, I think this is my favorite song.
What happened was we'd be working on the songs and we'd get a few kind of like laid out and done. And Max would be like, there's like, what's song 10? And I would be like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't like how it ends. I don't want to start it yet. So I really kept trying to push it off till I could rewrite the ending, which is basically, we have this kind of slower passage where Payson's doing this wah-wah solo and it goes into this like evil Castlevania sounding like guitar riff.
Yeah. And
like from that point to the end of the song was like the rewrite of the ending. And I was like, when I hit that, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the sickest song. And it is.
Dude,
if you hear that song and you don't want to run through like a brick wall with a smile on your face, like you're not living life properly. Like it's such a sick tune. Anyways, that's just it.
It definitely tells the most like complex story of all the songs. Like it really like there's a few songs that go lots of places, but that one is truly like in like a cartoon, when a cartoon character shoots like a bullet and it bounces around the room and breaks everything, like it's kind of like that. Like there's a lot going on there. I think songs 4 and 6 were the two that we were trying to like sort of find the voice of those songs. I think we had everything else pretty figured out. And up until maybe a few weeks before we recorded the record, I feel like those were the ones where it's like, well, yeah, we know these songs, but actually recording them, it's like, and injecting them with all the personality, you know. And it's funny because both 4 and 6, we're both doing pretty wild guitar stuff too. So it's almost like we looked at them more like the other songs were more set in stone. I think those were more like blank canvases, especially 4, where I was like, okay, fuck it, like wah pedal. Okay, fuck it, like tremolo and whatever. Like it's cool. I want people to hear parts and be like, I got to hear that again. What the fuck was that? So it's fun to pepper songs like that. But when you're done, it's like you have this really personality-ridden kind of like wild ride. So I feel similar about 6. I love 6, especially the ending of 6. I think it's super cool. And it goes into the last song on the record, which is like probably like my favorite, I suppose. So, but yeah, they all flow nice. The track listing wouldn't work in any other order, I don't think either.
No, and 6 is what I like about 6 so much is Servant of Possibility is that like the first couple minutes are pretty like, it just sounds like pretty standard fare, like something you'd hear off Symbolic.
Sure.
But then it takes this real turn where we're doing that single note thing against each other, and then I hit the harmonizer, and then the song really stretches out, and you have your spot, and it's way more like, I don't know, just that and 4 and 6, they feel like the most like exploratory and cerebral to me, even though 7's the longest and it goes out there, but just like from like riff to riff sort of progression. Because like 4 or like the closing track, I mean, we just kind of dwell on like a couple ideas for a while, right? It's like it's a different kind of stretching out, so to speak.
The final track is also definitely like a very sort of industry standard of extreme records, where it's like the last tune is the long one, where it cools off for a long period of time and then builds back up. It's like a really like classic way to end a record. But I definitely agree with the whole cerebral aspect of 4 and 6, where they're really all over the place, you know, and there's just a lot of ideas that we bounce back and forth in quick succession. So it's fun. I'm really excited to eventually play, you know, 6 and 1 and 2 and the last song live eventually. I think it'll be even crazier when we do them live. You know?
It's fun. It's fun to take risks on them too, because it's you know, it's different, and it's like we love the songs, and we hope people that like the band enjoy the record. But like, you know, it's nice that whether people like it or not, you know, we're doing something different, because it is, you know, sometimes you feel a little boxed in. So it's cool to just be like, fuck it, let's do this. Like, there's nothing stopping us. Like, we like it. It sounds cool. So yeah, those are my favorite parts on the record. All the parts where you're just kind of like, what? Like, I love them. Yeah, they're really neat. I'm glad there's a bunch of them on there. So
that's what I was gonna say. Like, and like my initial reaction, it was the first 2 were just like awesome, just kind of like hard hitting, you know, great opener tracks. And then, like I said, I heard that 3rd track, not knowing it was the 3rd track at first, but just like once that hit, then I had that smile, like, oh, they're really like changing this up, and they're going different places, and I just absolutely love that. And then I remember like kind of going through the other 2, they didn't hit right away. And then obviously the last track, that's an easy one to just like really hit. But then as I've like soaked it in, like I said, I mean, 4 is just like the one that really, it's so cool because it's in the middle. And it feels like, you know, you got that first track where it gets a little weird. I'm sorry, the 3rd track where you start to open up and explore things a little bit differently. And then you get that Fate single thread where it's just like you said, it's so weird. It gets complex, and I feel like it's cool because it's in the middle. So it's right at that time where sometimes an album can start kind of getting a little bit. Yeah, you don't. I mean, that's the worst thing, right? If that album just kind of gets a little samey, but it's the perfect time because it's like it's not that track really just goes out, you know, all over the place. I mean, you go from the weird stuff, the melodic stuff.
Right out of the gate, Derek was like very early on. I remember Derek was like, "This should be the closer to side A." Because then, you know, you have in the traditional record listing way, you kind of have 2 closers, right? You know, you listen. There's so many great records we love that you get to the end of side A, and it's got this kind of like slight finality to it. So, you know, that doesn't work as the opener of side B. It doesn't work as the second song of side A. But as your needle lifts up, it's like, damn, that was awesome. then you'd flip the record over and bam, your ass is kicked with another total rager. Like, so the track list is imperative for making like the actual album flow. So yeah, that landed exactly where it was supposed to land. So I think that's another reason we were so stoked.
It's a great point.
It's also funny. It's also funny to end a side of a death metal record on a major chord. That's all.
Yeah, I think too, overall, something we didn't mention yet, and I'm not trying to be like negative or anything, but I think there was a bit of a subconscious response from us to try and avoid the more like old school death metal tag. Like, I'm not like super anti old school death metal, but it's become kind of the thing. Like, it's caveman, or it's like, crawling through tar or whatever. And it was kind of fun to be like, let's just flip that on its head and just, the songs are going to be super fucking fast and crazy. And it's not, it doesn't sound like the Faceless or Defeated Sanity. It's not that tech, but our influence are there. You can hear Cynic and Death like as clear as day, but it's still Tomb Mold. Like, you can tell those are Tomb Mold riffs. If you listen to Primordial and this, they sound similar, and those records are like 5 years apart or 7 years apart or whatever. But yeah, I think there was a bit of like an effort where it's like, okay, well, we did this thing already, the more cavernous sound, and it's fun to just kind of shed some light on it, I guess, make it a little less because it still shreds. Like, that's what I love about the Speed. I don't think it's wimpy, but it doesn't drag its knuckles per se anymore.
No, and it's like 42 minutes of just like music. You know what I mean? Like,
there is 42 minutes of music on it. Yeah.
We didn't leave any. Like, we really filled the space up. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. There's
it just feels like every little moment there's like was paid attention to, which is good.
Yeah, it's like Born to Run.
yeah.
How
someone proofread those lyrics?
How did you come up with that Castlevania solo? That's such a sick solo.
Oh, thanks, man. I was messing around at home, and I wanted to incorporate. Derek and I talked a lot about modulation. We both get into effects a lot, and Derek really loves his flangers and phasers, and I love chorus.
He loves wah wah now too.
I love wah too. I saw Life of Agony like 6 days before we recorded this, and that's when I was like, "Yo, Max, you think you can grab me this wah pedal at your work?" Like, because you see the Kirk Hammett memes and jokes, and you see him up there doing the wah pedal for the entirety of the set, and it's like, yeah. I saw Life of Agony play River Runs Red, and every solo had wah, and I was like, "Yo, we're on the last song. I'm not sick of it yet. Like, this is badass. Like, I got to get some of this wah flavor." So, there's that wah solo. And then after it was like, well, I still got a few bars and I got this weird idea. So I messed with the tremolo and just got the speed right and put it up an octave and put some weird fuzz, like kind of distortion on it. And yeah, it's triple tracked, I think, on the LP. So, because it was kind of like on the other records, we were more conscious about like, let's do things that we can pull off live. Because you're drinking bubble tea. I can't believe it.
Hell yeah.
On the other LPs, it was like, let's do things in the studio that we can pull off live. Because we've all seen bands where we're like waiting for this part. Like, here comes that part. And then it just like falls flat, or it just can't be replicated properly. So Derek and I were like, well, let's write things we can actually play live. And on this record, I was like, yo, fuck that. Like, the record lasts forever. The shows are momentary. I can do that part live though. It just is got some tap dancing in it. But it was cool. Just I was like, well, this is a short little space, and it's right before Derek launches into his giant Entertainment Tonight solo. So it's like, fuck it, man. Let's just see. It is, but yeah, I appreciate that. I think it came out really well. It's one of my favorite spots on the record because I think everyone that hears it is like, "What the hell was that?" Like, so that was the goal.
Yeah, it works great. I love it. I just like I said, that track completely. What about like? So the whole theme of this thing, I'm trying to look into that. I'm trying to like read the lyrics, and it's complex to my stupid ass brain. I'm pulling some themes from it. I mean, I feel like the title maybe lends some clarity, but I don't know. Max, do you want to give any kind of insight on it, or what's going on with the themes at all?
There's definitely some overarching themes. I kind of find it hard to like describe a lot of it. I think a lot of it was inspired just by like aesthetic works and sort of using those as touchstones and kind of just riffing on small little concepts. For a while, what I was doing was like writing one lyric and then proceeding to the other, and then obscuring the previous lyrics. There was a band that had done that before, where they basically had written a tune by writing a line and then handing that line off to somebody else, and they would write a follow-up, and then so on and so on, kind of like Broken Telephone, where I was picking lines like day by day. I would write one and then add to it. But I think at least like an overarching theme was definitely like rebirth. What else? Because we literally just talked about this stuff like at length in a written interview, and then I can't like I start to reiterate it like verbally.
But my interpretation of the lyrics, like to me, it's a lot about like, to me, maybe it's just my own personal thing, perseverance, and just like, I don't know, the will to overcome or achieve or something.
I think a lot of it had to do with maybe like what is maybe the Ouroboros nature of the band, where we were making such great headway for a long time, just working and just enjoying our era of like productivity. But I think that was us like basically consuming ourselves until there would basically be nothing but like a speck left, where this record would be an intentional kind of dismantling of the band, where like the band as itself, its own sustained entity would die and then would be reborn again. And that's kind of the frenzied aspect of the last song, where it's the full title of the record, where the record is The Enduring Spirit, and then the title track is The Enduring Spirit of Calamity, basically representing the frenzied nature of a lot of the prep moments of this record. I don't want to say it's sort of a self-referential thing where it has to do a lot with the actual production of it, but I think the spirit of our time spent practicing is really seeped into the content of it. A lot of it too had to do with stories about like escapism and denial and like finding oneself. Like I thought a lot about a couple like one of the big touchstones for the whole album was this show, Or a Battle or Dunbine, which is basically all about escapism. It's about a kid who's like kind of like a tortured soul, and he's transported to like basically a mystical land where he has no ties, no nothing, is given the chance to start fresh as like a kind of an austere warrior, and kind of uses this time there and ends up like basically being reborn at the end. And I thought about that a lot. And I thought about what the band represents for me as an escape and as a support system. And I think that's one thing that was an overarching kind of theme. More on the literal side, that's kind of tough. I watched a lot of TV, and I read a lot of shit that really probably does not sound like it has anything to do with it at all. But I think a lot about rebirth and like the death of self and subsequent rebirth of self in like
over COVID when you were living in Collingwood, you were consuming like 1.5 like classic pieces of science fiction literature a day.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, yeah, you were super steeped in that stuff because you were going to those shops and getting all these crazy old paperbacks with cool covers. Mm-hmm. And you were so into those. I feel like the record's very steeped in that influence. I think lyrically, all the words are, it's not that they're vague, but they're almost like kind of a Rorschach test for the reader. Because I've read the lyrics a million times now. And to me, the record is lyrically, I find it steers more towards themes of the acceptance of mortality, understanding
I kind of was
you are
in
going
there
to
too
die.
with that. Yeah.
The acceptance of mortality and all of the pain that comes with life. Like, I think it is an optimistic and positive record in a lot of ways. And I think, the same way I think, yes, life is full of pain and strife and difficulty, but it is worth it. But I think the record shines kind of a light on maybe those ideas, along with, the idea of like, this is life, it's finite. Your mind is something intangible. It's hard for me to pin down properly, but yeah, I say Rorschach test because over the record I dealt with like personal loss, so maybe that helped me read the lyrics in a different light or under a different filter. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know if that's completely off the mark or not, but I think people will draw their own meanings from it, which is, I think, a great thing.
It's one of the big strengths of it. Yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of it too was part of a lot of the stuff I at least read or took in over that time was really very, like, at the core of a lot of these stories was like a coming of age sort of tale. And I really like the uncertainty in that, but each character sort of eventually expressed a confidence in self that I thought was really endearing, and a non-commitment to defining oneself. That's why when we originally sort of started working on the record, I had a working title called Cycle Reincarnate Necessity, which was from Adrienne Rich's Diving into the Wreck. And I really, really, really enjoyed that line, and I thought about it a lot. And I don't remember exactly how I landed on the enduring spirit, but I think it was sort of like a riff on that. I have a really hard time describing why I like what I came up with, because
I believe the original title was The Enduring Spirit, a Max Klebanoff joint.
It still is. It's on the Matrix code of the LP.
True.
But I think it's something that people can obviously draw their own conclusions from. I don't think it's really super obtuse. I think it's relatively easy to kind of pick up on, like, atmosphere in the writing, but no literal stuff. I've never been a very literal writer. In all the songs that I've written for the records preceding this one, they've always been kind of vague for the most part, and just a lot of verbal kind of play and a lot of goofiness. And I think this one's a little bit playful like that too, but maybe not as maybe a little bit more I don't know, encouraging. I wanted it to be not a positive record, but I wanted it to be uplifting in a way that people look back on the lyrics, or people read along with the lyrics and really enjoy them. Because I feel like a lot of the stuff I pick up lately, I don't really read closely to the lyrics. Not that to say that they aren't good. I haven't been really drawn to a lot of bands with lyrics that in that vein. So I really wanted to think of something that was refreshing for me from what I had written previously, and something that something for someone who had similar interests to us, myself, that they would also get something out of it, I would hope. But
I like that. I think that's true. I think Payson, you kind of nailed it too. Because I feel like you can really draw your own conclusions. But I do like that, like, you can pick up on the big themes. Because that's my favorite thing about albums. I don't always dissect every lyric, but I do like just being able to pull something from it, and then you can kind of add your own stuff to it. I think that's a cool thing to have in an album.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think of some examples that sort of have that stuff.
This album certainly has a vibe through it where it's like, I think people would, if someone hearing it for the first time, it would be very likely they would guess that it's a concept album, which maybe in a way it is. I mean, you do revisit a lot of the themes and ideas as the song goes on, and they progress. They are in like what to me feels like a linear sort of order. I guess we've never even talked about whether or not it could be a concept album. Concept album usually carries a lot of like negative connotation because of like overblown, sci-fi and projects that are, kind of goofy or whatever. But I don't think the album is like 7 songs that are completely disconnected from each other. I think they flow really nicely, and I guess not a traditional concept album in that way, but it's certainly written all from the same. It's all mined from the same vein, I would say, to me as the reader.
Another big thing too that I really liked, or really liked including, at least in the lyrics, was a lot of questions. I think I've used that. I think I've never really done that on previous tunes, and I did it a lot on these ones here. And I thought a lot about how songs were written on like kind of really classic screamo records, a lot of Neil Perry records, Joshua Fiffer Battle and stuff, where there's punctuation really kind of adds a very like different meaning for tunes. So there's a lot of speculative questions. I think that's just to convey some sort of uncertainty. I didn't want there to be really like unease on the album, but I wanted it to be kind of inquisitive, and that people could really draw their own conclusions from those questions.
Catalyst for introspection.
Yeah.
When the song's over.
You know.
Whoops, sorry.
But yeah.
I shook my screen.
Cool. Yeah, no, that helps. Like I said, I was trying to pull some stuff from it, and I felt like I had a little bit there, but that helps. So that's cool. I was curious too about, we didn't really talk much about the bass, but the bass is a pretty big highlight on this one.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Yeah, I know. I mean, especially in some of those songs where like it kind of shines through even more. But even when it's not like a main part, like just the texture of it, it's just adding a little more complexity, just another thing to listen to. Where like those repeated listens, I'm finding myself like, oh, there's a cool part right there. What was it like? Just, I mean, you did the fretless on this, right?
Yeah.
What was it like?
I used on that record I didn't use flat wound strings. As far as like inside baseball details go, but I played fretless. How did it go? Well, I did work through each song ahead of time. So we did this thing that was sick because Max is a brilliant guy and can record all of our shit. We did a rehearsal of the LP, and that was awesome because then we could all take it home and hear our guitars clearly. Like he mic'd up and we just like ran through the songs. And it was so great, but then it was also good for adding like demo versions of solos that we could kind of listen back on, and if we liked it, it was like, okay, great. So I was able to play bass along with that, and that was good. That definitely gave me a footing. It was fun to play, man. It was a lot of fun. It's like a real different experience than playing on guitar. I guess like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if other people feel this way because like I don't ever really talk to anybody about playing bass that much, but like I feel like it's much more of a physical act. Like with guitar, like you have this like piece of plastic, you're going like this a lot. Whereas like with playing bass with your fingers, like you're really like working your forearms and your fingers. And I feel like all this tension just rise in my like torso. And I find I have to like move around and stuff, but then I'm just like trying to like channel all this energy into hitting the strings as hard as possible. Because sometimes you go see death metal bands and their bassist plays with their fingers and you can't hear them at all. And I'm like, we can't, like, this has to have some kick to it. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to go for it. Like, you can't be like, you can't play that shit gingerly. So it was fun, but it was exhausting. But it was fun. It was hard. I have a drum and bass mix of the record, actually. I don't want to listen to it, though. I will hear all of my mistakes.
That's a hidden track on the CD.
Yeah. Save that one for Burning Man.
But it was cool, man. It was a lot of fun. I was happy. I was pumped to do it. I was excited. It was a fun challenge. Working on that Outer Heaven record was definitely like a really great primer because they had some much more like angular riffs compared to their first record on the new one. So even just doing that and getting comfortable with it was like good. And then I think probably even like learning that like that record was, it just had a positive impact on me, even transferring to guitar. But yeah, that helped, but it was cool. I really liked it.
I think Arthur found a really great spot for it in the mix right away too, frequency wise, because you never know how the first mix is going to sound, and the bass right off the get-go, he had slotted it in a place where it's like, okay, you can hear what's going on, it's still clearly bass, because sometimes fretless or any higher register bass playing can kind of lose a bit of the low end. The low end is still there, which is important. I'm talking about, like tech death bands where they do a lot of high stuff. And it's like, it's super cool, but it's like, there'll be 90 seconds of the song where it just sounds like 3 guitars instead of 2 guitars and a bass. So frequency wise, yeah, it sits really nice. It pops out when it has to. Derek gave him a note or two where it's like, make sure you can hear this thing or whatever. So, and it's a very dense record. So it's like you said, that's a good observation. I'm glad that you said you're hearing different things when you listen to it, with vocals, drums, 2 guitars, and bass, that's 5 moving parts at all times. So I hope people keep unearthing stuff as they listen to it. So that's sick. Yeah, the bass turned out really well. I really like how it sits on the record, right in between the 2 guitars, because that was the first time when Steve had played bass on Manor and Planetary. It was far more distorted tone. We were playing a lot lower, and Steve was kind of just like that, like sort of locomotive, chuggy sort of sound. But that suited the sound a lot more back then in a way that it wouldn't have suited this record. So that was completely new for us. And then with the guitars, we were trying some different stuff too, like tone wise, overall. So there was a few firsts. So it was kind of like we got the first mix. I was like, I hope everything clicks, and it did. So
yeah, no, we had everything. Stuff. We had everything so well dialed. And it was fun. It's always fun when you get to make a new record with like new gear and stuff, right? So we had like new guitars. Max had a new drum kit. I had that bass and stuff. And yeah, no, it was everything. We were so fortunate at where we record at Boxcar Sound with Sean Payson that we get such good. We managed to capture everything so well. You know what I mean? Like drum sound, guitar sound, just like the general room sound, and it was. I think it was funny because at some point, I think even talking to Arthur, he I think he was like, this was such an easy job, like to mix this record, which is great, right? Like, I mean, that's easy money, man. That's awesome. But like, maybe he was like hoping for more of a challenge. I don't know. But like, we're definitely like fortunate that like on top of like showing up so prepared, we have these other people that just sort of propel your bullshit into like this upper echelon of something really good.
Yeah,
I think we wanted the record to be. I think we wanted the record to be not underproduced, not overproduced. I think we wanted it to sound just like how we sound in our rehearsal space or off like the cutting room floor there. I don't think we wanted to dress it up like at all, if possible. So I just wanted it to be kind of like shot out of a cannon, mixed really crisp, so you can hear even like the shuffling of our feet in between fucking like guitar breaks, stuff like that. It just all like live in the room, just like as if you were like standing in the middle of the 3 of us and we were playing directly to you, fucking serenading you.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the mix, man. I mean, it does sound like that. It's not overpolished. It doesn't sound like it's overproduced. It does still have that raw tone to it, but like not in like it's just some dirty way where you're going to lose things. I mean, you could just hear everything really well. Yeah, so I think you nailed it.
The frame of reference for Arthur was, can you do something in between Manor and Planetary? Because Manor is very raw and rough around the edges and just rip your face off. And then Planetary was pretty produced sounding. It's pretty compressed. I mean, I love the way the Planetary sounds for those songs, but that is like probably the cleanest, most produced of a record I'll ever be on as far as the sound. Like that thing is like tight, right? So this was like, well, let's get a bit of the liveliness back. But, it's not like Manor where it's like I can hear my pick, scraping the Manor is raw, man. It's super raw. But yeah, so the in between was a good place for us, I think. So because everything pops nice, and yeah, Sean is such a pro. Sean is the fucking man. I love him to death. He got such good sounds for us. And he's so easy to work with. Every facet of working with him is awesome. So he knows what he's doing, and once we're tight, so we're good. He gets to the drums and guitars sounding good. It's like we already have a solid foundation, and then we can just put everything on top, and we're golden. So, yeah, we showed up prepared, and he's always given us great results. So it was like, it was equation for success.
Yeah. Yeah. What about, I mean, what do you think people are going to think about it? Do you think people if the fans are ready for it? I think they're going to be like, this is too much, or this is just what I wanted, just going off,
big things coming. Y'all ain't ready. Watch this space, etc. I think people are going to be really surprised by the, sorry to lead it off, but I think people are going to be really surprised by the lack of notice. And like, it's just like, okay, here it is. It's by the time this is out, the record will have been out, but the plan has been for quite some time to announce the record on a Monday, have it out on a Friday. And I think that was kind of an organic thing that came out of, and this is where we get back to the tapes, having 2 of the songs in the LP. When Planetary, I think Planetary is a cool record in its own right, where it's like pretty solid record that feels kind of like a one big song. I think the way it flows great. But the issue was the song Planetary Clairvoyance, The Grow Inside Part 2, and Cerulean were released on tape. When we announced Planetary, we had quite a long album cycle. So Infinite Resurrection came out. Then Accelerator Phenomena came out. So the day the record dropped, people had Beg for Life, which was like a probably 6-minute song. Not Accelerative. It's
just Heat Death.
Phosphor and Ultimate.
Phosphor and Ultimate, yeah.
So it's like, it's not an interlude, it's a song, but it's instrumental. And then Heat Death, which is predominantly instrumental. So it's not that people were disappointed. I don't think that at all, but it felt like there was less meat on the bone for like new stuff. And yes, they had heard new versions of Cerulean and Planetary, but when it came to this one, I was like, boy, I really hope we can just put out one single. Dave was like, why don't we put out no singles? Perfect. So yeah, I think people will like it. It's a departure, but I think anyone that likes the band will enjoy it. I don't think it's too much of a departure that people would be like, oh, the thing I love about Tomb Mold is gone. And I also don't think it's too wacky that people are going to feel put off by it. I think it's a nice logical step. I think some people will like it more. Like, I think people will be cool with it, and if they're not, it's all good. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I don't know if I care. I just like I love it, so that's all that matters to me. It's like I guess I think for anyone who gives it an honest chance, I think it's a super rewarding listen. I think if you like the band, I think there's no reason why you can't like it. It's an even better display of like what makes Tomb Mold, which is us in the band, and everybody is so on display in such good and unique ways, and everyone has a voice, and everyone's voice is heard, and it feels like, and to me, it really feels like the first Tomb Mold record. And I don't mean primordial, I just mean like the first real Tomb Mold record. It felt way more collaborative. It was fun. We had all this, I don't know, it just felt like better input. I was so happy that Max wrote all the lyrics. There's just this theme runs through the whole thing. It just feels so complete. It just feels like, and I love those other records, because like to me, like when I think about me and Max making Primordial, it's like, I don't know how the fuck we did it. Like, I don't know how we wrote the songs. Like, we did not know what we were doing. Or Max had a better idea because he has more chops than I. But it was like, we get an email from Blood Harvest. Do you want to make an LP? And I was like, oh, okay. It's like, I guess we have to write an LP. And it's like, and it's so funny thinking about that record where we do drums and one of the guitars at Boxcar. And we're like, Sean's like, I'll let you come do it at night. So I'll give you a bit of a price break. And then Max is like, we'll do the rest in my basement and I'll record it. And I'm like, cool. And it's like, okay, I got to do second guitar. Well, what do you have? A Fender Telecaster. Okay, great.
Sounds good. It's just what you have. That's the core of it, is what is lacking from records is more often than not the identifiable quality that people enjoy. It's just like, if a band's got a fucking weird tone, that's why it fucking rules. If a band's got like a snare that sounds like a fucking tin can, that's why they fucking rule. If vocalist sounds like a frog, that's why they fucking rule. It's just, you have to really, what is like nuanced often is produced out of like either out of necessity or by accident or out of like almost incompetence. And that's it's chance. And that's what I really liked about the band in that era too. And that's why I also thought at the same time that this is really a fresh slate for the band. It is really like a record that creates a canon that Too Mold now has, where the other ones, I feel like we still were thinking about like our performative selves and people viewing ourselves. And because we had nothing at stake, we were like, this band, people don't even know we're fucking doing anything. They think we're broken up, think we're done forever. So really, it does not matter. So we don't have to worry about having like a fucking great night at a show. We don't have to worry about like our performance itself. We want it to be a standalone body of music that will like stand the test of time. Like what Payson said before, I don't care about a show. I want the band as like a spiritual body to maintain itself forever because we cared about it that much and we put our whole selves in it. And I want to draw strength from that. I don't want to be like, man, I hope the show will be cool. I want to be like, I want to feel like 3 people or 4 people combined into one fucking mega fucking dude that just fucking
mega dude.
Yeah, mega dude. Yeah. Oh my god.
But it's like, yeah, but like I think what's fun is like, and I think the charm of the record, to me, like the charm of the entire band is like sort of like, it was like a learning on the job process. But then this record is like, I think we finally figured out how to do the thing, like for real. And that's cool. Like, it's so great. Like, I don't know, like we all played in bands together before, but I don't think we ever thought we'd be doing anything of like this sort of magnitude with each other. But that's like, to me, like when I listen to the record, I just hear like 3 best friends playing music with each other. To me, that's the best part. Like the journey, the creation, and the process. To me, like, and it was hard, man, and it was great. Like, it fucking ruled. But and no one can take that away, whether they hate the record or not, right? Like, that's mine or that's ours. Like, fuck that. Like, we got that.
I want to draw strength from that sort of continuity. I want that to be like my well that will never dry. I want it to be a continuing source where the band is not an expectation. It is what we want it to be. Whatever we are feeling, it could be that, and it's not. There's no stake because it is us. You know, people don't expect things from us because we have created a body of work that stands by itself. No cult of personality. You know, I think the band is Too Mold. That's it. You know, if that's how it will be put to death. That's how it lived.
And doing what you want always guarantees sincerity as well, because it's not, hey, people might like if we do this, people might like if we do that. It's like, well, we like it. It's sincere. Like, and there's nothing on this record there's no like, hey, we need more fast songs. Let's write song 2 and 5. Like, we got to do that. We need the radio hit. You know, it's like, no, we wrote the shit we liked. We played it the way we liked. We worked on it together. We added stuff. We just built it together. So yeah, like Max said, like, shows are wicked, but I'm going to have dementia someday and I'm going to forget I ever played a show. But you can show me the record and be like, you played on this. And I'll be like, oh, wow, that's great.
They'll show you the record and you'll say, mega dude.
Yeah, I was the mega dude on this record. But when, and it's, seriously, when we're gone, the records will still be here. So it's like, speaking of mortality, like we were earlier, it's like, I want to leave some stuff with my name on it that I'm proud of. So, this is kind of like, and that'll help us feel good about it, because no matter what happens now, it's like, well, it's done. It's pressed. It will be out in the world. Awesome, cool, and then we'll figure out what's next, right? But plus, this record is larger in scope, so it's no wonder that it took 4 years versus the other records. It doesn't mean it's better or worse or whatever. It's just a different beast. So it required a certain degree of care that we couldn't have, given it in just a year. If we had made this record in a year, it would sound like a demo for sure. And it wouldn't have all the cool bells and whistles that make it so fun and engaging. So, but there's no Telecaster on it. So that contingency of death metal fans in 2017, that's why Too Mold took off. Because there was probably some Facebook group that's like a bunch of dudes that are like, I am fucking sick to death of no telecast. When Primordial came out, they were just like,
I was like, hold my beer. I got
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just as an outsider perspective, I feel like, I mean, that's something I always like from Tomb Mold is that each album you're getting a completely different, you know, it's always Tomb Mold, but there's always a change and there's always a different sound, and it always sounds different than a lot of the other stuff you're hearing in the death metal world.
That's awesome.
And so it's just like it's not surprising to me. I was surprised by some of the stuff that was on it, but in a way that's like, oh, that makes sense. Like they're going here now, you know, like everybody's kind of doing that. They're going here, they're going their own way. Like doesn't sound like an album that anyone else could have put out. You know what I mean? And so I think, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I can't see too many people not enjoying it, but it's like, plus you had the demo that is a little bit of a bridge, you know, you guys opened it up on that one a little bit. I mean, I saw so many people that love that one, and a lot of people that were like, you know what, this is the first thing I've even really loved from Tomb Mold. So I just feel like the amount of people that are going to come on board on this one is just going to, I mean, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I had a guy message me. I think he must have been European, but he was like, yeah, I like this. Like, you guys sucked until this came out. I was like, great. Thanks, man.
I do like that though.
We made. I can appreciate the honesty in a way, but in another way, I wanted to be like, we made it for you. Like, I was tired of your shitty reviews of us on Rate Your Music. We had an emergency meeting, and we said we gotta do something for this guy in Holland.
Man.
Yeah.
I guess we never think about like who we are, like, yeah, like we don't ever talk about like who is this record for or anything like that, right? Like, ew, could you imagine doing that? Could you imagine like all getting together and be like, all right, what fans are we going to try to appeal to with this record?
Yeah, it's nice too, because this record is definitely a bit more guitar centric, but it's not like wank either. Like Derek and I both love, you know, and Max, of course.
We all love a lot of wank.
We all love wanky guitar stuff, but it's kind of nice because I feel like we have, you know, our you know, we dip our toe in a little where it's like we're pushing ourselves, but it's not just like, here's some big solo and then 2 seconds of lyrics, then another big solo. It's like we're having fun, but it's just another element of the band. So
it's not Rust in Peace song about guitar solo, guitar solo.
It's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned Rust in Peace, because like I was like 12 when Megadeth put out Risk, and that's not
your favorite Megadeth record.
My all-time favorite. It's not very fondly remembered, and I was a huge Megadeth fan, and I didn't like it. And then I didn't like Cryptic Writings either. And I thought Euthanasia only had a couple good songs. So basically, I was of the mindset at 14, why can't you go back and do this? And I remember reading an interview with Dave Mustaine, and I had a degree of respect after. I was like, that's cool. Where he was like, look, I could write Rust in Peace again. Like, I could do it, but it would just be this hollow imitation of something I already did. Like, it was a moment, we did it, we love it, and we continued to grow as a band. And, you know, if you don't like our new records, it's too bad for you. And, you know, I respected that, because Megadeth could have done 6, you know, pale, hollow imitations of Rust in Peace and just kept cashing checks. And yeah, I didn't love the records, but I respected the artistic attitude towards, like, we are changing, we moved on. You know, hindsight's 20/20, and he can go back and say that Crush 'Em is the worst song ever, and he's kind of right. But at the same time, it's like, you know, it's cool. It's cool to try something different, and as long as you like it and you have faith in it, and you know it's something you're driven to create, it's like, well, it can't be bad then. It's coming from somewhere pure. So that's what I tell myself to sleep.
Oh no, 100%.
For sure.
You guys ever had? That's funny. I just thought, like, a lot of times that happens to me where I'm like, not that you like that Megadeth album more, but sometimes it takes like an interview that I'm reading or listening to or whatever, where it'll just make me rethink an album. You know, like I get their backstory of it.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't really like it. Now I'm invested in it, and I'm like coming around to it. I think that's why I like doing interviews sometimes, but it happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I mean, albums are very personal, and there's so much of the artist in them. So, and it's so easy. Like, we all consume music at this voracious pace. So sometimes I think we forget, artists or just listeners or whoever, it's so easy to hear something and be like, sucks, and then move on. But it's like, it's like that meme where it's like the crying guy, and it's like someone listening to an album I made through an iPhone speaker, and they're only going to listen to like 10 seconds of it, and I spent 5 years on it. It's like, yeah, I could totally relate to that for sure. But I know what you mean. There's been records I've at least given a second thought or consideration to go back and check out or whatever, because sometimes artists throw you curveballs. You tell you that, oh yeah, my favorite record is whatever, and you're just like, whoa, really? Like Fripp being like, oh yeah, I really love like Beat. I'm really happy with Beat. It's like, that's not in my top 5 Crimson records. So, and I love him as an artist, so I go back and check it out and see what he's talking about. So yeah.
What off topic from the album, but just since I haven't talked to the other two of you guys, but what music wise for what you guys listen to, what are your guys' like similarities? Like, where do you guys and where do you guys differ? Like, what's some stuff that each of you are like, yeah, I like this, but that's kind of your own thing.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Derek.
No, you first.
Oh dear. I like a lot of music. I'm easily impressed.
We all do, but
yeah,
where we obsess is different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we all like anything. We like a lot of sort of like more fringe genres together. Like I feel like we like what we would maybe see like the best of everything. We find things we like in genre and we really gravitate towards it. We can always talk about that regardless of genre. We all love things that are technical. We all love things that involve, a certain degree of skill to play the instrument, especially from an artistic standpoint. Something that's not just wank, when you have someone who really has sort of like a philosophy behind their art, but they're also very skilled. Like when you listen to Miles Davis talk about, playing music, and it's just like, whoa, this guy is on a totally other level. Stuff like that's great. But yeah, for differing, like I love a lot of pop music. I love anything with really strong melody. So, I like a lot of like J-pop and K-pop and stuff. Anything that can get in my head. And I like, I have glasses and a beard, so I like Radiohead a lot. And stuff like that, the stuff I grew up on is always my favorites. But I'm trying to think, what else do I listen to, guys? I listen to music.
Well, yeah, you listen to city pop. You love.
Yeah, I like a lot of Japanese fusion funk stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you love pop music for sure.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. I love bands like Perfume from Japan. I love Bandmate from Japan. Bandmate had a lot of influence on how I wrote my solos on this record. They're like kind of like an alt rock Japanese band, and you can see the progression of them getting much better at their instruments as the records go on. And seeing how much their guitar player, Konami, has improved, it kind of drove me where I was like, well, she is a beast now. She's so good. And her solos are so good and so catchy. So, yeah, that was one I listened to a lot. It definitely had a lot to do with the way I wrote on this record. And, yeah, we all like hardcore and punk and metal. And, yeah, we like a lot of the same stuff. We never, like, argue about it in the car or anything. We'll just put on whatever. Yeah. Sometimes it's Michael McDonald. Sometimes it's Stars with a Lid. So yeah, all over the place.
Trying to think if there was any sort of like, there were a few people that I really obsessed over for a while leading up to the recording of this record. 2 drummers in particular that I've referenced in 2 interviews now, Chris Corsano and Ted Burns, both solo. Ted Burns more of a solo percussionist, and Chris Corsano often performing with, people like Bill Orcutt and a few others. But I thought a lot about like really expressive playing, really like intense dynamic drumming a lot, like way more than I think I ever had. I think prior to this, I was really still mostly, I looked to people like Bruford and really classic prog rock kind of stalwart drum gods as people that I really admired. And now I think more people who have become so good at their instrument that what they're playing to like a casual listener or someone just hearing it for the first time would sound like it would sound like nothing. It would sound like just texture rather than any sort of sticking or practice pattern or any sort of like phrase. And I really found that to be like a big inspiring part of at least my playing on this record. I think there was definitely several moments when we were recording and writing and practicing where I was like, I can't play drums anymore. I have reached a breaking point. I cannot physically do it mentally. And I think hearing people like that provided so much encouragement that I need to stop overanalyzing what I'm doing and really think of my playing more as an expression rather than just an execution, where I'm just playing the same parts that I've thought of for, however many years prior. But
It's funny you say that, not to cut you off, but I had that written down just when I was going like track by track, making notes on it and stuff. And like, I'm not a drummer, so I hate to comment on drums much because I just don't know anything about it. But the word you're using there, like just that expressive playing, like, and the intensity, the way that you kind of like combine that both, it just like what I was saying about the bass, like adding that extra thing. It's just like, I'm not being a drummer, but I find myself like tuning into that sometimes because it's just like I'll be carrying like the intensity of a part, and I just think that's pretty badass.
I really, drums are crazy.
He's always the star of the band. Every time we go anywhere, they're like, "Yo, your drummer's crazy," and I'm like, "I know," and they're like, "How does he do that?" And I'm like, "You should go ask him because I don't know how he does it." And he gets better. Yeah. And this record's so stupid, man. His drumming's so good. And we were practicing. And he did the vocals with it, and I was like, "That's fucked up." I was loving life, man, watching that.
It's wild to stand on the edge of the stage when we're playing somewhere we've never played before, and like we play the first few notes, and Max is like, I'm like scanning the crowd, and there's like people like elbowing their friend, like you can see us set up, and people are like looking for the singer, and then it's like, oh, whoa, what? It's awesome, man. Or they're also like, why do these guys have short hair?
That too. Yeah, that too. I don't know. I think maybe, but I think there were definitely some moments where I felt like at my lowest when it came to like my performance ability. And I think that is what I think coming out of this record, I learned that's fine. I shouldn't care because I will never have like a perfect, performance. I just want it to be me. I want it to be everything that I'm about in a performance like that. Like I think there's a really great interview with Tony Williams where he talks about workshopping solos and how he structures solos and how he doesn't really plan them, but like softballs ideas and introduces them and kind of walks people through a solo that he had done in like, I think it's some late 80s period where he had this really iconic like big yellow kit with like 3 floor tops, and you can see him like indulging himself on these phrases, and you can tell that he's not there. He doesn't really know exactly what he's doing, but you're watching that process and you're seeing him refine each subsequent like grouping until it becomes something that's new and then solidified, and then another theme is introduced from there. And I really liked that sort of playing where it was like methodical, but it was to build tension to this point where you're like, fuck, finally I've got it. I understand what I'm doing now. I get it.
It's so funny you say that because you're talking about Tony Williams, one of the greats. Mm-hmm. And how many times of practice are we working on a song that's 5.5, 6 minutes? Mm-hmm. And we've played it 20 times leading up to then. And then we get to a part, and Derek and I lock in, and all of a sudden you do something completely different, or you switch, and we all look at each other and we can't talk. We're in a room mm-hmm. that's like hundreds of decibels, but we know right away. Right away. It's like, you find your footing, or you change something, or it's an 8 part and the next 4, like you can see the gears turn. And I can tell when you do something you like, and I can tell when you do something you don't like. And it's like the evolution of the song. And it's pretty cool because, we get to watch it in real time, but without any real dialogue. It's all based on the interaction we're having together. And then Derek and I, you can see it. There's some practices where I'm there after work. I'm dead. I'm sweaty. I'm sitting on a busted ass drum throne playing the songs. And then Max is like a part that he's doing. All of a sudden it's quarter time, but there's the hi-hats going double time or something. And I get right up. I'm like, stoked. Derek and I are looking at how can we work with this? How can we play to this part that Max is doing now? And all of a sudden it's like the room is just alive again. It's awesome. So yeah, sorry to interrupt you. It's just funny that you say that about Tony Williams, because it's almost like you're describing something that happens really organically at practice when you take the skeleton of the song and you just reshape it. And all of a sudden we have something to work with. And yeah, days where I'm ready to conk out, I'm all of a sudden like, fuck, let's go. Let's do that again. Let's not forget that. Somebody fucking film it.
Yeah, grab a phone. Grab a phone.
Right, let me write it on my snare drum. So
yeah, that happened next time. That happened a lot, and it's always, those are the coolest moments of practice for sure.
I think that really kind of really not being afraid to try stuff. It's that's what's most fun about playing music with the people you've always played with, is that there are no stakes. It's just whatever you feel is right, you know. And the most impressive drummers are always the people that just go for it. You know, I can watch, you know, it's sick watching a fucking triggered up fucking hyper blaster, but if I see Ted Burns play on a kit with 2 Perrier bottles, I'm like, that's fucking drums. That's drums. I don't care about anything else. That's drums to me. I don't want to see someone play like on barrels, you know. Or like there's a really great, I don't want to say ambient artist, but more of like a field recording artist, Jeff German. And he does a lot of very focused, very detailed, close sounds of found objects and playing them and using them as instruments like that. And I thought a lot about how I can apply that kind of thought process to the kit, which I don't know if it's really something that's very clear in my playing, but it's something that I think helped me at least find other ways to sort of voice the kit where I'm not just doing the same fucking fills, same accents, you know. And there's people that have done that over the years, and those have always been people who I find really, really encouraging, you know, like fucking watching Derek Roddy videos on fucking sickdrummer.com where he's like, yeah, I'm in a band. I do a lot of fucking blasting, but here's my fucking thing. I swing on the blast with my right hand rather than just blasting through 16th notes. And you're just like, what the fuck? That's who else would think of that? And it completely broke my brain seeing that as a kid, like totally broke my brain. And I still think about that stuff now. And I think about, you know, Bruford playing with like whatever sort of implement, new electronic piece of gear, weird mount setup, whatever it can change his kind of drum like language lexicon, like his tools that he is using. Like prior to this, every single band that I had ever been in with Payson, with Derek, with anybody else, I always played on the same kit, the exact same setup. I never did anything different. And the only difference was like I would have a second crash rather than just one. And I bought a new kit and I was like, I need to figure out how to play differently. I need to upset myself. I need to completely break myself down in order to do something different. Like I had to, it's like after you finish recording something or you documenting something, you kind of submit it into the ether and then fucking delete everything else. Hard reset. I don't want to think about it. I'm not the same person I was when we started the band, so I shouldn't be playing the same way. I've got to change. And ran.
more cymbals too.
Yes, lots more cymbals.
More cymbals.
2 hats.
Two
hi-hats.
2 rack toms.
2 rack toms. Crazy.
Yeah. Crazy.
New snare.
Yeah, new
gear. I had the up until last year, I had been playing with the same double pedals since I was, I think, 13. My parents bought them for me. They were PDP dual chain drive double pedals. I played them literally until last year, and they were dead. Everything broke apart. Like the clamp system that would hold the pedal to the hoop of my bass drum has like a huge crevice out of it because the cam and linkage for the pedal was so lax. It was so old that it was basically slamming into the bottom of the pedal every time I played it. And then when I got my new pedal, I like crumbled. Like I like disintegrated because I was having such a hard fucking time. It was so difficult. But again, I'm happy that I did it because I feel better now. But for a few months, it was grim. So grim.
Oh, whatever. We got through it, man.
We did.
Now there's no looking back. Don't you feel like after you like make the record, you're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I know I can do it. There's no excuse.
Well, kind of, but then I'm like, oh man, this record sounds so fucking good. Time to relearn it with vocals. Time to do it for the first time. Like at the time of recording this, it's September 7th, and we're playing our first show with new material on the next week, like in a week and a day, and that will be the first time we've played these songs live. And I think that we practiced them with vocals for the second time on Monday.
First time. First time, new songs, first time.
Yes. So that's.
So are you guys playing this stuff before anyone's heard it?
No, it'll be
Or is this show after?
Yeah.
No, it's on release date. We'll be playing 3 of the songs from the new LP on the 15th. And then the next day we'll play probably the same set list, unless it's received really poorly, in which case we'll play a 5-song set in Montreal. And if people don't like it, they can fuck off. No, we'll play those songs, and they're still fresh enough that I think it's pretty good, and they sounded really cool. So, but it's going to be really fun to play them. It'll be more fun when we play them when people are fully soaked in the record. But for anyone that doesn't have a minute to listen to the new LP on release date, it's going to be wicked to play Will of Whispers and just see so many confounded looks.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
I didn't know they were going to do a Rush cover. That's crazy.
I guess as far as listening habits, we all kind of like the same, like, especially with like, not extreme metal in general, but death metal, we all definitely like mostly the same stuff. Max gets way more into like the black metal than Payson or I. He's sort of like, he's much more on it in general, I think, than me or Payson. I think like, with me, like I'll just listen to the same Bruce Hornsby record for like 3 months straight, or just like insert, 3 Fish concerts or like something like that. My taste, I barely change it up. But when I wrote the songs, it's funny because you asked earlier, like, what would the songs have sounded like if you tried to record them in 2020? And it's like, well, I have videos of me playing the songs horribly in 2020. Like, so I could tell you they would have sounded like shit. But I remember when I started writing those songs, it was, like spring, summer of 2020. And I was really obsessed with, I finally started to like the album Symbolic by Death. I don't know why I had it in my head that I shouldn't like that record. I just didn't. His vocals, I don't really like his vocals on it. Now I'm like, I'm a little bit more, I like them now. Okay. But, there's such a pop thread that runs through that record in like such a tasteful way. And I got really back into running and stuff. And that was such a great record to listen to while it was running. That and like Unquestionable Presence by Atheists, another bright sounding record with interesting parts. Now they are much more skilled than I at writing. So I'm not saying we sound like Atheists, because we don't, but, we do a good job at what we do though. But like just these like bright, exciting records that like kind of kept you on your toes and didn't dwell too hard on, or like didn't dwell too long on stuff. I think also probably like I was working on Dream Unending, which is like more of a dwelling band, that I was like, well, I don't want to dwell in this, like this is going to be like thing after thing after thing after thing. And then like, like some of the more like cool, like technical thrash stuff like Oblivion and whatnot, like just like these cool angular single note riffs. And obviously like Trace Thin Air, like who?
What?
Are you serious? You like Trace Thin Air? I had no idea.
Yeah, that's totally fucked, man. Crazy.
So like like definitely like listening to those records like was just like a great, and also like some new stuff like that Swevin record, was it called Eternal Resonance? Like that was such a cool record, and I thought it was really like there's just no another metal band like that sounded like that to me, right? And I think me and Max definitely like enjoyed that record a lot. And a record for me that I thought was such an inspiring contemporary record was Four Dimensional Flesh by Afterbirth. Like,
oh yeah,
I heard that record and I just freaked the fuck out. Like I just thought it was so sick. I like wrote to like Cody from that band and I was like, I love this so much and blah blah blah. and their new record is also sick. It's like it's so good. But it was like I thought like just I thought the riffs were great. I thought the use of like clean sections was good, and even like some of the more like clean atmospheric stuff over the heavy riffs I thought was so cool.
Big time.
And I was just like, I want to write like that. And then when we started really getting into the meat of the record, like as far as like solo writing, well, I just love Steve Lukather from Toto. And I would love that Summerlands record that came out because like Justin sent it to me early and I showed the mates too, and I was like, I thought it was so good. I think we all did.
It's still in my goddamn CD player in my car.
It's awesome.
It's just like the one that hasn't come out yet.
And it's like,
Probably not
and I
gonna take
love the solos on that. And I was like, that sounds like so much fun. Like I want to play like that. And it was, I think it was like, these were like brighter songs. I wanted to write brighter solos. I wanted them to be kind of exciting and like, it's not very evil. It's way more melodic. I think this album has more of an apparent like emotional weight to the sound, which I really like. And I really like that we leaned into it. And I think when I read the lyrics, I lean into it. They lean into it. And it's like, so it's all of this, like all these things and more like kind of all working in concert with each other. But it was so fun. It was so fun to write solos for that record for sure. And like, it was kind of like, anytime I was like, I want to play a lead record, I was like, you have to do one too, to Payson. It was like, you have to play one. And it was great. Cause then you get such a flavor wheel. Like it's so varied. Especially with like all the modulation like Payson used. Like he leaned into it way more than I do. I use like a harmonizer on sometimes, but they all just sound like a clown screaming. And it's like Payson's are way more nuanced than mine. But yeah, it's good. It was fun. I like that record. But yeah.
Yeah, I like our record. Yeah,
I like our record. What do you want me to say? you know when you're talking and then you're like, I'm kind of done my thought, but I don't know how to conclude my thought.
That's why I like Max's. Just like end right.
Yeah,
That's good.
That's
I
my
like
story. I'm sticking to it.
Since we're over an hour and a half. Probably wrap it up. Is there anything that we about the new album that we didn't dive into that like we should touch on before we do?
The artwork.
Yes, for sure.
Artwork. Forgot about that. I was just pressing like a blank, like dub 12-inch.
It's a plain DJ sleeve.
That's it. Dumb old.
Momo stickers.
Yeah, the artwork.
What's the story with that? Who did it, and what was the idea behind that? Did you guys come up with that concept, or
we Jesse Jacoby did it. He did the cover for Planetary Clairvoyance. It was kind of a long process to figure out the art for this. We were really trying to figure out sort of like a curveball, but it just ended up. We just wanted to work with somebody who just like we have a relationship with Sean at Boxcar, we wanted someone who is invested in like the vision of the band and is a friend. Most importantly, that would, put their time and their love into something as much as we did. And Jesse was like a no-brainer, and his style had changed, and it was even more refined than it was at the point of Planetary Clairvoyance. So once we saw his recent kind of posts and the work he had done on that game Norco, we were like, Jesse has to do it. He just has to. It's a must, and it's going to be sick, and we're going to tell him to do it extremely fast, and we're going to ruin his life a bit.
Yeah.
But that's because
he had to suffer just like we did.
Exactly. That's what happens. It's sometimes you got to suffer for your art. It's just the way it goes.
We did him a favor, I think. I mean,
he's a better person now because of it.
It's like Saw. It's like Saw. Live or die.
But he, when we talked for like hours on the phone about what sort of concepts we wanted to include on the album, because again, I wrote things in a pretty vague way, and I wanted him to just kind of interpret it as is, but I knew I wanted it to have tangible figures. I didn't want it to be a very sort of impressionist painting, like something abstract. I wanted it to be kind of a literal interpretation of some of the themes. And once I gave him some reference material, I scanned a bunch of B Club old newsletters with these insane drawings from like the preliminary development periods for shows like done by for 5-star stories, where it's crazy kind of like half mechanical, half organic figures, but they're all really visceral and they're all tied together kind of in one image. And we just kind of talked about that stuff. I sent him a bunch of like old clamp art where they were so detailed that it just looks like a fucking complete mess. And was just like, it needs to be triumphant. It needs to be uplifting in a very odd way. It's got to be sort of unsettling at the same time. And he kind of ran with it. And once we got like a little sketch, we were like, that's it.
Yeah.
Cool. Just do it, man. We have no other notes other than this is sick. Keep going.
Yeah, I think I had one note. I was like, can you make this put some teal in there? Some sea foam? That was it. But Jesse is an artist. Like, you got artists who you commission a piece from and you tell them exactly what you want and they show it to you and say, is this it? And you say, it's great except for this. And they say, okay, and they change it. And then you have artists who put their own spin on everything. Everything Jesse does has meaning. Like, he's not just, that's what's really good about it, because there's a certain heft to his work, and you can tell when you look at them. But it's not like, oh, I drew some little dudes because I felt like it, or these guys asked me to put this thing on it. It's like, when you talk to him, you know he's got a vision for sure. It's clear he's got a vision, and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. But like, as it went on, he was explaining everything he was doing and adding and refining, and he nailed it. Like, he just was on the exact same wavelength as us, and fortunately, which was great. But yeah, he's an artist where things mean stuff. It's not just, the guys wanted this, so I just did it. It's like there's a certain gravitas to it for sure. And yeah, we're all super happy with it. I remember when we saw the first, like, here's what it's gonna look like. I was like, holy fucking shit. Like, I love Planetary, but it's very dark. And on the CD and LP jacket, if you're not in a well-lit room, it's hard to see. And that's fine. It's great. But I love how expressive this one is, and just emotive and foreign and just exotic. Like, it's, I could just...
Well, it fits the sound, too.
It really fits the sound.
Those are all the same kind of things for the sound.
Absolutely. It's like a glove on the record. Like, anything else just wouldn't have clicked. I can't even describe what it is about it that works so well, but it's got this kind of broad spectrum of, I don't know. We just love it. He's awesome, and he's easy to work with, and Arthur is easy to work with, and Sean is easy to work with, and Dave is easy to work with. And we're super blessed and fortunate that we work with these people regularly. And, we're able to come up with a product we all love. There's no holes in it. We feel awesome about it. And yeah, it's this effort of all these people that really makes it work. And then, like I said, it's the same wavelength. Like, these guys understand what we want and they feel the same. I genuinely believe that. So, it was nice to speak to Arthur about the record and say, what parts did you like? And he's able to just rattle them off. I love this, this, and this. And, that means a lot to me because I respect him as an artist, musician, engineer, whatever. So in speaking to Jesse about it when he's not talking about Detroit Red Wings, it's cool to be able to hear his thoughts on it, So, that's a little aside, but it's nice to have all these people to make this thing that really is this cohesive, product that we're all really stoked on.
Yeah. I remember even Jesse saying, like, he was like, I'm really excited to do it because he's like, I really like what I did with Planetary. He's like, but I always wanted just like another crack at it, on an album cover for you guys. I just feel like I can outdo myself. And it's like, well, I think we felt like we could outdo ourselves with this record. So like, go off, King. You know what I mean? Like,
Once he said that, it was like, okay, this is a match made in heaven right now. Yeah. There's really no other. There was no other option.
There's something, I don't know if other people feel this way, but like, there's something when you work with people that you like, respect, love, whatever. You really want to do right by them, right? Mm-hmm. And then it motivates you. It was like sort of like writing, like even just like drafting these songs to show you guys. It was like I want to show them something that will, make them want to like rise to the occasion like I do. You know what I mean? Like it's like you want to please them. You know what I mean? It's like when you like do the dishes before your wife comes home, and then maybe she'll be happy with you for the evening. You know what I mean? Like just like
Maybe.
baby, big baby.
She doesn't usually notice. It'll be
like you did the dishes, but there's like two guitars right in the middle of the walkway. Like, what the fuck? Like,
It's always something.
Look, you can't win. You can't win ever, but you can try your best, and like you can be bad at most things in life, but like maybe there's this one thing you do, and then you do it with other people, and it's awesome, right? And so it's like, I think like Jesse probably felt this like drive too to just be like, this is sick, and I'm so stoked, and I'm gonna give them something that's gonna blow their minds, and he did. Like I never would have thought of any of that shit. You know what I mean? Like he's a brilliant guy, and it's great. It's so great.
He is a brilliant guy. Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, anyways,
Cool.
That's
good
cool.
record.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's good art.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It fits it. It's perfect. It adds to the whole experience. I mean, that's what you want.
Is there anything? Is there anything really better than an album you love where you love the art? Like think about Altars of Madness, listening to Altars of Madness, and then just looking at that cover. Like it's just a picture. It's all it is. It's a 12 by 12 picture, but there's something about it that's so magic. Like I think about like the first Black Sabbath album cover in the context of the song Black Sabbath. It's, it's just a rich tapestry. You need it. And it's there. And it's this amazing thing. It's this like artifact. Like, look at this amazing cover and the context in which it was made. And he used a Stratocaster on it. That's crazy. But, a good cover that you can get lost in, like, that's something to be really stoked about. So, like, the record being so massive in scope, it's like, fuck, I'm so glad we have this crazy front cover and back cover for people to just hopefully just stare at when they're listening to the record. Like, I'm so stoked about that. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah, the album cover.
No, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I mean, it colors the experience, like for me, that sits in my head when I'm listening to an album. And so not that you can't enjoy an album with a shitty cover, obviously.
Oh, we do
that all the time too. But.
There's so many.
There's some records I love where I'm just like, this sucks. But it's awesome when they match up and they're really wicked.
Yeah, when it all comes together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For sure. Are you guys gonna do much touring off this one? I mean, you got the 2 shows in Canada.
Yeah.
Anything like you're probably not talking about it yet, but anything that you're planning to do?
We've discussed it, Yeah. I think I think we're really excited to see how the record's received. And then I think that'll be, that'll sort of dictate where we go and what we do. But yeah, it's certainly something we plan on doing. We have a couple things that are like definitively in the works that I don't think we can mention yet. But like once I'm really curious to see what people think about it. And I think we're all interested in maybe doing some shows that are kind of like unexpected or a little off the beaten path. So we'll see we'll see how people react and what comes out in the woodworks. And yeah, it'd be great to do some stuff because it's our shot to do this stuff, right? So people, if they want to see it, that's a great thing. And the nice thing is we've done our headlining tours before with our friends' bands. We toured with Feather and Bone, we toured with Superstition, we toured with Horrendous where they headlined. But it's just nice to play a show where it's a $15 show and someone's showing up and spending $15 to see your band. Like, yeah, the venues are smaller, but it's always been really rewarding to be like, yeah, we're playing wherever in DC. Our friend Hassan puts on a gig and it's just rammed and we're headlining. Like, I love that, and that's no slag on anybody else for touring the way they want. But yeah, I've loved doing headlining tours because of, the audience, because you meet so many people that love the music. It's great. So we'll see what comes out in the woodworks. But yeah, should be some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Music good. I love playing music with my friends. If there's any takeaway from this interview, it's playing music with your friends and have fun and try your damn best.
Try your damn best.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all can be expected of you is do your best. Yeah. And I think we've all realized you it's so cliche, but you get out what you put into stuff. it is what it is. And I've spoken to people that say, "Oh, I want to start this band, or I want to start that band, or I want to learn an instrument." It's like, do it, but just grind at it. Just it don't, you can rush it. You can barely, you can, just scrape your way through a cruddy demo, but do it. Like, do it and finish it. And you want to get good at something, then do it a lot. You will get good. Like, people say, and it's all context to, how you feel about your own skill. Like, people say, oh, I say, Max is an incredible drummer, and I hear Max all, oh, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that. But that's just how skill is, Derek and I, people, oh, you guys are so good at guitar. And it's like, man, I feel like a beginner a lot of the time. I really do. So, because
just say, no, I'm not. Walk away.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong. Alan Holdsworth said, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And when you really start grinding at something and you're getting into it and you're learning all the shit, it's like, damn, I would need to live 10 lifetimes to learn half the stuff I want to know about this instrument. So,
and that's what I really like about that too, where it's like, you know nothing, and you can kind of like you be content in knowing nothing, that anything that you see or hear is something new to you. And it can really, at any moment, your any sort of notion of your instrument or your band structure can be basically rearranged in a second. And that sort of uncertainty is really what makes playing together so fun, is that any day it could be completely different. Who knows? I could come up with fucking, I could show up next practice with fucking congas, with fucking cajon, no bass drum, 2 cajones.
Why not? I expect it now.
Yeah.
Put the bug in there.
You think you can have that ready by the show?
I've got them in my trunk. I've got my brushes.
We got 8 days.
There we go. I've got my wraparound mic. It's done.
Perfect.
Yeah, 8 days is like 100. That's like 192 hours. That's tons of time.
Cool. Well, I mean, that seems like a good spot to end it on. I'm inspired. That was inspiring. I'm ready to start a band myself.
Perfect.
Finally.
New band, Mega Dude.
Mega Dude.
I wrote down that one you guys told earlier. I was going to steal that name. What was it?
It was Cavernous something.
Yeah.
Cavernous Offering.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's our zine. Yeah. I'm transcribing this whole thing right now. It's printed. It's there. I'm at Staples right now. I'm Xeroxing all of us.
Well, thanks for doing it, guys.
Thanks
I've
for
been
having us
stoked
on.
to talk
Thanks
about
for
this.
having us
Yeah,
on.
thanks for having us. That was fun.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've been done an interview like with the 3 of us since in a long time. I'm gonna act as if this is the first interview with the full band.
It's the first one. It's exclusive.
I think it might be.
It's like in person, us talking in concert.
It's not, but we're gonna act like the other one never happened.
This is it.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. I forgot about that one.
This is the first one. Yes, there you go.
The first one, yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
No more questions asked.
Oh boy. Good stuff.
All right, guys.
All right.
Cool.
Good luck next Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.